All right, we have the giant anniversary Hound guide for you here today on the episode. Appreciate you tuning in as always. This is a great tips and tricks and cookie run team for new users or experienced players alike, and something for everyone, as I like to say. Now, that is available to you down below in the timestamps, where we'll cover each of these pieces, pull it all back together as we always do. Now, thank you for your support as always. Appreciate the likes and the subs. If you happen to have a question or comment throughout today's episode, do let me know, and feel free to swing by the Discord server as well. That's available to you, and other great content here on the channel. All right, so let's get moving, because you're here for the guide as always, and we're going to break a couple of key things down for you, as we have about 48 hours left in this awesome second anniversary event on CookieRun Kingdom. First thing to know, I think, is absolutely the most important, is these pieces here where you can max level to 10. Each of these big pieces that is going to increase attack, reduce your cooldown, and additionally increase your crit percent. Now, these are all very, very huge for us. Not as important immediately, these random effects. Later, those will make a difference. You don't necessarily need to spend the money, but certainly something you can do. You need to run through this enough times to open up each of these things in order to make you successful and gain access to these random effects. Now, the random effects will move the needle, but again, firstly and foremost, you want to work on collecting these. You want to get the anniversary cake crumbs and certainly max those out, as you can see below, obtained in this season. Now, additionally with that, with the 300, you do have access to the shop to go buy things depending on your preference or what you're looking to do, and where your account is, you can certainly use those up. So that's the first piece, is making sure that you absolutely go after these, absolutely just get enough at bats. Don't worry so much about your record or your rank. That's going to come after you fill everything out and get to your end game here as always. So next, let's go ahead and look at our team. So the team, in terms of cookies, a pretty standard comp in terms of what's really direct in terms of end game right now for this particular Hound Frenzy event and team setup, is going to be, as we look at these, Rye Cookie, then we have Vampire Cookie. Additionally, we're going to have Affogato Cookie here. We have Eclair Cookie. And then last but not least, we're going to have Milky Way. Now, the thing with Milky Way here is you do pivot. Again, if you've watched my guide, we pivot off of our Swift chocolates into our Syrian raspberries. Now, there's a key piece to this, in particular with this comp, and as you can see, I can certainly lift my skill level there, which will ultimately give me a higher score, which is great, and increase our power level. Is this Milky Way Cookie here on attack, and everything else pretty much on attack, is due to the fact that you have a lot of survivability with this particular event. Milky Way Cookie is going to consistently push back the K count, allowing your other cookies not to get disrupted, those kinds of things, or interrupted as they cast their spells and attack, which is going to be very, very big. So this, again, kind of standard. A couple things that players like to do, they may switch out Vampire for a few other things. Again, you're going to want high velocity, high damage, high DPS cookies in there. So things like, let's see if we can find it, Licorice Cookie right here could be a good one for you as well. I've seen that in other comps, just wanted to give you an idea. Now, we're also working towards Eclair in here to reduce the defense of our K-Hound as well. And going to that, let's talk a little bit about the treasures. So additionally with the treasures, one thing that I like here in particular, one that is heavily used instead of our Pilgrim Slingshot, is Dream Conductor's Whistle. Now, Dream Conductor's Whistle is a brand new treasure for us. It is passive at the beginning of battle. It's going to increase crit percent of allies by 15%, grants the whistle buff to 2 cookies with the highest attack. The whistle buff increases attack by 33% and damage resistance by 13.6. When the 2 cookies with the whistle buff are defeated, heals the max HP of allies by 30%. Don't have to really worry about that. You shouldn't be losing cookies in this event. Damage resistance, you're not really going to need. The attack's nice and the crit's nice. But again, it's only focused on 2 cookies. Allies are going to get 15%. So that's a big one for you to remember as well. Now, my preference in particular is... is actually switching out the Dream Conductor's Whistle for Pilgrim's Slingshot, because we're reducing our enemy's defense by 70%, which is huge. And the other rationale behind this is when we're already at the massive crit of 60%, and your cookies should probably have some crit on them, yes, you are likelihood increasing the chance of crit damage. You definitely want a ton of crit damage on there, making the crit more effective. However, the fact is, reducing the defense, in my opinion, is probably going to hit harder and allow for more damage against the cookie or the K-Hound, as an example. Now, again, still something to consider in terms of that, instead of increasing the crit percent, but actually reducing the defense of the K-Hound, which certainly can make a difference there for you as well. Again, this is my auto team. Let's go back here and check out the other two. Definitely standard is going to be decreasing cooldown for all cookies, and additionally increasing attack for all cookies by 43%. So huge things there. Again, just wanted to consider something a little bit different for you than Dream Conductor's Whistle, in case yours isn't leveled up too much, or if you don't have it, or if you're considering some other things to play around here. Now, additionally, you could go Dream Conductor's Whistle instead of maybe attack. That could be an option for you as well, or some other things to kind of play out. Now, you do get reduced cooldown by 30%. Maybe you want to swap that out as well. But again, some key items on the treasures and some key items on the cookies in particular for consideration. So that is a big piece. Now let's talk about the kind of really after you get through your main cookie team, you get through the treasures, and you collect all these different buffs here, and really get to that end game. It's really about tweaking your record and your ranking percent. So the keys here are going to be enabled by the random effects. Again, you'll have all three slots open. Let's go ahead and hit this here. Big ones that you're going to want as this goes up, this will become more expensive, so keep that in mind. My preference is, because I do have a ton of stamina, essentially just pay the 500, and you don't really have to worry about that. But if you do, you can certainly play the more coins here and redo your random effects. We're not getting a ton of additional abilities. Really what you're going to want to get is something like this: cookies crit damage plus 75%. Now, I've had two of the key ones here, which is like increasing attack and crit damage. This is a great one. Eventually this random effect will be capped at 5,000 coins. You can keep hitting those kinds of things. So really big in terms of kind of moving the needle. I would say on a consistent record or damage there, maybe 10 to 20%. So that's kind of where you can optimize really at the end game for your giant anniversary K count here. So let's go ahead. We'll keep this one. We're going to run it for you. And we'll talk about one more other key tip that I think is really important that people forget, particularly when we're on auto. And then additionally, when you're in edit here, don't forget on your toppings to use your pre-select. Again, a lot of times people forget that. You can switch it there. We'll make sure it's on this, going to attack 5%. You can certainly make sure all your other cookies are set up there as well. And that is what we're going to go with. All right, so let's go ahead and run. As you can see, my team's at 1.35 million, essentially. Again, having a higher team is certainly going to drive a higher value. In terms of this as well, let's go ahead and look at the rewards. In order to get to that top 5%, you need to be getting about 240,000 in terms of damage against the K-Hound to get there. Great rewards there if you can do that. If you can get in the top 1%, 700 damage, essentially scaling 3 to 4 times over what we currently have. That's going to be a big difference in terms of that attack power, not necessarily the cookie team, which is maximizing everything out in your account. So keep those things in mind. So don't stress, as I like to say about that. Now, let's go ahead. I know this is a very successful comp. I've done it more than once already in terms of making the rank in the top 5%, which is why I created this guide specifically for you. All right. We're going to go into it here. Now, one of the key tips in terms of our actual attack is the fact that we're on auto. You want to make sure that you're spamming. There is a slight lag in terms of what happens here. So the more that you can click and keep spamming here on these skills, the likelihood as well of additional damage getting in and making a difference in terms of where you're going to be. So let's see if we can keep getting here. I like to get a clear cookie on, obviously, before everything else. You could keep spamming your treasure as well there. in particular if you wanted. Let's see if we can get there. It's going to be real close in terms of where we're going to hit. Let's see if we can get one more in. We did it. We did it. 291 there, going up from that 280. Again, a very, very small clip in improvement, but certainly due to the fact of those random skill effects. So that is a huge key tip there in terms of breaking down some of those things. We still continue to stay in the top 5%. We did move the needle, again, continuing to solidify where we're at. A couple random effects. If we were to get that one plus another one and continue to spam like we did, most likely we could probably get our record over 300,000 there in terms of where we're at today. All right, cookies, I'm going to pull this all back together for you in terms of our giant anniversary cake hound guide and wish you the best on this event as well. So the first piece here is, again, making sure that you're maximizing all these pieces. Don't worry too much, again, against your record and ranking at the beginning. The second piece there is the cookie team that we talked about. We gave you a couple ideas in terms of how to move things around. Certainly you can, again, put those damage dealers in. Another good one, Sherbet cookie as an example, could be one for you too, that I forgot to call it earlier. Now, we talked about the treasures, some of the components, why I'm using this one versus, again, the conductor's whistle there, which is a very, very popular one as well. Again, personal preference. And I talked about some of the methodology theory behind that. Certainly, maybe right or wrong. However, we'd have to do a lot more testing on that as well. So that's a key piece there. And the cookie team. And then last but not least, we talked about each of the random effects at a high level, how to think about that, how to tweak your team. And ultimately, we did land a new record score here for you today on the guide. So with that, cookies, thank you for tuning in. As always, thank you for the likes. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate the subs. Great ways to stay connected down below. Other great ways to follow and stay up to date here on all things CookieRun Kingdom. And don't forget, if you got a question, comment, do let me know or swing by the Discord server. All right, cookies, I hope you enjoyed today's guide. Again, like I said, I wish you the best in the giant anniversary cake hound second anniversary event here on CookieRun Kingdom. Until next time, cookies, we'll see you again soon. Tons of content for you to browse here on the channel. And with that, Mythras out of here.